Hello everyone, my name is Nick and welcome back to Flyout. In today's video, we are going to be talking about the lost flying wing and what would have happened if the YB-49, a flying wing from the 1950s, actually succeeded. I mean, just look at this thing, it's beautiful. In 1941, in the thick of World War II, the United States government commissioned Northrop and Consolidated Vultee Corporation to both design long-range heavy payload bombers to help support a future war effort. Northrop, led by Jack Northrop at the time, came up with a novel design for a flying wing style aircraft that was intended to completely eliminate parasitic drag, at least as much as was practically possible, and generate more lift with a greater payload capacity than a conventional variant. This design would come to be known as the YB-35, and it was the world's first flying wing style aircraft. The original specification was a bomber that could carry 4,500 kilograms or 10,000 pounds of payload on a round-trip mission to continental Europe based in the United States, the idea being that these bombers could be launched from U.S. air bases to strike in occupied Europe. The first YB-35 flew in 1946, right after the end of World War II. Development was still active at this time, and the design proves very promising. However, the YB-35, which was originally propeller-powered, would later be converted into the YB-49, switching out its 4 contra-rotating propeller engines for 8 jet engines mounted in the same locations on the wings. During the testing phase, 2 prototyped YB-49 bombers were built. The first of these prototypes was destroyed in a testing accident in which the plane's front landing gear collapsed, causing the entire aircraft to burn. The second prototype aircraft, intended to be the second of 30 produced for the United States Air Force, ended up sitting on the edge of an airfield after the Air Force suddenly and almost inexplicably canceled the program. The YB-49 had been passed up in favor of the more conventional, normal B-36 Peacemaker built by Convair. This bomber, while more old school and still using piston engines, presented a less risky option for the United States Air Force at the time. However, later in life, Jack Northrop would come out and say that at the time, the YB-49 flying wing program had been canceled not because of technical difficulties, but rather because of petty political squabbles. In reality, he stated that the current Air Force Secretary, Stuart Symington, had attempted to coerce him to merge his company with Convair, and upon his refusal, the YB-49 contract had been canceled. Interestingly, Stuart Symington later became the president of Convair, I believe less than a year after this cancellation.
Coincidence? I think not!
The last surviving YB-49 ended up sitting on the edge of an airfield for years before it was eventually scrapped. The world would not see another production flying wing until the B-2 bomber was built in the 80s and 90s by the United States. There's an argument to be made here that a lot was lost by the cancellation of the flying wing program. And in this video, we're going to explore a sort of alternate history version of this story. What would have happened if the YB-49 program wasn't canceled, and if this novel flying wing aircraft actually made it to production? And let's imagine further that the flying wing in general became the generally accepted philosophy for aircraft design rather than the more conventional fixed-wing monoplane style design. So in this video, we're going to explore how that may have progressed by building a flying wing style fighter aircraft. To keep things interesting and to give us a sort of historical benchmark, we're going to be using the F-15, a real-life fighter, as our sort of benchmark for this project, which means we'll use the F-15's mission and performance specifications as guidelines for the construction of our flying wing fighter plane. The idea being to evaluate, does a flying wing actually present serious advantages over a more conventional design? And if so, what are these advantages and what do they look like? Now, the F-15 first flew in 1972, almost 51 years ago to date, which means that this aircraft has undergone significant changes throughout its service life. This means that we're going to have to look at specific snapshots in its development to be able to effectively compare to it. The F-15 was primarily designed to be an air superiority fighter, but it also has ground attack capabilities. And of course, we're going to give our fighter the ability to do both of these things. So we're going to have air-to-air missiles on board, as well as air-to-ground missiles and normal guns. With these benchmarks and information in mind, it was time to begin building our very own flying wing fighter jet. Now, this process was not without its kinks, and there were quite a few issues that I had to figure out, which actually, that lines up with about what we would read about the flying wing program in the 50s for the YB-49. The first and biggest of these issues is that in a flying wing style aircraft, typically the center of pressure or center of lift is located forward of the center of gravity of the aircraft. And you may be thinking that just sounds like a bunch of science mumbo jumbo to me, and it is. But for us practically, that means that our aircraft is unstable aerodynamically. To translate that into real world terms, if I'm flying straight in our flying wing and I suddenly pitch down, the aircraft, rather than return to a straight path naturally, is going to want to pitch down even further. So it's a sort of positive feedback loop that leads to a great deal of instability and makes these things almost impossible to pilot. Thankfully, Flyout is a 21st century game and we have 21st century tech, so we can take advantage of something called a fly-by-wire system. This basically means that if the pilot tells the plane to pitch down, rather than getting a direct input to the pitch control surfaces, the computer in the plane executes the pitch down maneuver by actuating the plane's control surfaces in a way that actually makes it go down, rather than creating a situation where pilot says pitch down, plane enters death roll. So this was the first thing that I had to overcome. And thankfully, setting up a fly-by-wire system was pretty straightforward in this game. The second big challenge started to occur when I did the very first flight tests on our aircraft. And that was that whenever this aircraft exceeded the speed of sound, so whenever it went supersonic, it had a sudden tendency to pitch either upward or downward and sort of lost its aerodynamic stability even with the fly-by-wire system. Now, this problem was initially solved by tweaking some of the fly-by-wire values, in particular the pitch value, to prevent it from entering this death loop. And the reason for that is because once you exceed the speed of sound, the location of your center of pressure, or center of lift on your aircraft, changes because the airflow over the aircraft is changing as well. Now, this problem led into another problem. As soon as we were able to achieve steady flight, so that's flight without pitching up or down in a death spin kind of way, we encountered this issue where as the plane was flying forward in excess of the speed of sound, it would develop this vibration right around 550 meters per second that would prevent us from going any faster. And I spent a very long time trying to trace this issue down. What I eventually ended up doing, and this is kind of a workaround solution to the problem, is I ended up increasing the weight of the plane, which effectively damps the effect of the control surfaces. So really what we probably have an issue with is the fly-by-wire control system, but I instead fixed it by increasing the overall system's weight, which is a very workaround and incorrect way to fix the problem. Finally, I had constructed a relatively stable, actually flyable aircraft that was pretty maneuverable, capable of very fast speeds, and was able to deliver ordnance effectively as well. This is our flying wing fighter aircraft, and I'm going to give you a little tour of it right now. So here she is, ladies and gentlemen, the completed AC-1C, as I am calling it. So this is a flying wing style fighter aircraft. I'll do a quick tour of this thing and then we're going to put it through its paces in some flight tests. But as you can see here, we've developed a sort of flying wing, twin engine, air superiority type craft. So first we'll talk about the control systems because it's a little different on a flying wing than on a conventional plane. So if we look at our wing here, it's actually split into two sections. So we have our outer section here and our inner section here. The inner section has this control surface, and this is configured to regulate your pitch. So technically, you can kind of think of this as an elevator, and I'll talk about why this only does pitch in a little bit. This outer surface is configured to do roll. So that's sort of like your typical aileron. Now, since this is a flying wing, which actually it's not quite a flying wing, but anyway, it doesn't have a rudder. So our only control inputs are pitch and roll. In the wings, we also have these fuel tanks. So these are drop tanks. This is where the fuel is stored. I've added vertical stabilizers to these to help with the tendency of the plane to kind of, yaw side to side when it's going through the air. We have our 3 landing gear right here, here, and here. Currently have some air-to-ground missiles on here, as well as some guns, high-caliber cannons, and of course our twin engines here. Now these are afterburning turbojet engines. They are about the same diameter as the engines used on the F-15, although I believe they are a bit bigger. I've also integrated these nice handy-dandy little scoops on the front here, and of course we have our pilot. This model could be polished up a little more. For example, there's not a nice taper down to these jets here, and there's also not a nice way of integrating this control surface with this jet. But one of the reasons I did that is because I would like to have versions of this where these engines are swapped out for bigger, more powerful, or differently optimized engines. So she's a pretty good aircraft. We are capable of pretty fast supersonic flight. It's fairly maneuverable, it can pull a lot of G's and turn pretty quickly, and it has a really good rate of climb. So that's enough talking about it. Let's actually fly this thing, and I'll let you guys see what it's capable of. Alrighty, so here she is, the A1C. In a few moments here, we're going to do a little flight test of this thing, but you can see it's on the runway right now. It's got a pretty interesting sort of footprint. I really love this style of aircraft because they just look so futuristic, like a lot of things from the 50s did. And, you know, even if the F-15, F-22 modern aircraft like that look really cool, they just don't have the same charm, in my opinion, as the flying wing design does. And you guys know how I love my aesthetics, so even though she's a little crooked on the runway, let's get this thing going here. So we'll throttle all the way up, try to get right off the ground. Who needs the runway anyway? Yep, okay. Super quick to take off. Okay, already we are cruising nice and fast. We're gonna trim the pitch just a little bit. So one of the benefits of a flying wing design like this is because the design is all wing, it generates a ton of lift, which makes takeoff super easy. In theory, that makes this sort of a design really well suited to like an aircraft carrier where there's super short runways, super short takeoff distances, all that sort of stuff. But you can see already this thing just cruises really well. We're only at about 3,000 meters. We're already going 900 miles an hour. That's over Mach 1. Do a little twisty test here. So again, you can see our ailerons on the side working there. And then let's just do a little turn, show you guys just about how fast it can turn. So again, these settings can be trimmed in the fly-by-wire section. You can actually make this thing behave differently, but it's actually super quick to turn. It still could use some tweaking, I think, but these fly a little differently than conventional fighter aircraft because, again, you have to actually turn the aircraft like this and then pitch up or down to perform your turn like this. So it's a pretty quick aircraft, and I guess let's do a climb test here. So let's do like a 45-degree angle, maybe a little more. As you can see, the speed is pretty steady, about 800 miles an hour. We're still going supersonic right now. We are slowing down, but not too much. I mean, it just goes, you know, it just goes. And while this design, especially with these intakes, does not minimize drag as much as it could, it certainly reduces drag by quite a bit. Alright, let's level out here. We are losing some speed, so I'll pitch down just a little bit. Okay, and just for fun, let's go ahead and get ourselves a little something to launch a missile at. So let's get some SAMs on the ground. Maybe a few of them. There's one over there. There's one there. We'll target this guy. We'll target that guy. All right. So let's get nice level flight here. There we go. Cruising at about 17,000 meters, which is quite high for this kind of an aircraft. All right, let's equip our weapon. I don't know what the proper profile for a bombing run like this is or whatever, but we're not going to worry about that today. We're just going to take this thing down. Actually, it looks like we've been targeted there by a surface-to-air missile. Thankfully, we have the big fast on our side. Let's turn towards the SAM. Remember, we want to hit the SAM, not the missile that's coming at us. I don't believe it will hit us. Did I put flares on this? I don't remember. I think... Oh, we actually got hit! Look at that! In all my testing of this before I actually filmed the video, I've never once been hit by one of their surface-to-air missiles. I guess that's what they're for, so I should expect it. Pull up and deploy our countermeasures. Didn't matter anyway because we outmaneuvered the missile. Now again, this thing, it can pitch down and pull up really, really quickly. Like we're pulling 14 Gs just in that turn, another 12 in that. Let's target the SAM here. We'll get in a little closer. They only shoot 2 missiles, so we've kind of already had our chance. Oh no, they get another. Everything I say, apparently, not true. One for the SAM. Okay, it hit us. There's one away. Okay, we're gonna have to do another pass to hit the SAM. I think. I don't even know. Is that chasing us? No, it's not. And there's our AGM, which appears to have just not done anything. Let's just do a little loop here. Nice and easy for this excellent aircraft. Don't target your own AGM there, buddy. Oh boy, we're coming in too hot. We're not going to be able to target it. Oh no. Okay, we're going to have to do another run. Hello, Sam. Here comes the surface-to-air missile back at us. One of the things I really love about Flyout, and I've actually featured this in one of my other videos, but if I go to flyby view here, so there's our aircraft right here. I don't know if you can see it. It's this little smoke plume, right? We're about to get this lovely sound. Oh, it's so cool. I love that they added like accurate sonic booms like that. I think it's amazing. Great job, developers, Flyout developers. I don't actually know who you are off the top of my head, but you're awesome. Alright, we got the SAM targeted. Let's fire our... Okay, I'm off course again. Readjust there. Turn. Okay. Oh my gosh, are we going to miss it again? Not exactly a glowing recommendation for you, Mr. Aircraft. Alright. There it is. Right there. And the AGM is away. Let's watch it hit. Right on target. Beautiful. Perfect hit. Doesn't look like it was destroyed, but who cares? We got a hit in. And you get the point. This thing is very, very fast. It has its flaws, of course, but this is just sort of a tech demo to see, like, what could have been possible, you know? And I think there's a lot of untapped potential in the flying wing style design. And if you actually look at a lot of modern fighter aircraft and even bomber aircraft, the sort of blended wing design where a fuselage is blended into the aircraft's wings is becoming much more popular. And I expect to see a lot more of that in the future. But anyway, we've shown what this thing can do. I'm going to end this video off with a quick montage of some of the flight clips I took of it. And I hope you guys enjoy. This craft will be available for download on my Discord server, so find the link for that in the description if you want it. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you have a wonderful day.